Hi, welcome to Wikzipedia. In this tutorial video, I'm gonna show you 8 tips and tricks to become a better builder in Planet Zoo and how to build a habitat from scratch till the end. In today's video, we're gonna make a habitat for the new arrived sandcat. But before we start by building, we need to figure out what we want to do. So the first tip I would like to tell you guys about is research and references. What's important here is that you take the time to research real-life habitats, buildings, architectural styles that align with what you have in mind. Check out Pinterest, check out ArtStation. In this case, I found these 2 or 3 pictures that I would like to incorporate into Planet Zoo by making a sandcat habitat. It's really important you draw inspiration from real-life examples that will help you create more authentic designs in the game. I have not built many realistic habitats, but to make a habitat immersive, you can pretty much do that by doing these 7 new tricks that I will provide to you. What you do is that you start by selecting an appropriate size for the habitat. Check out the animal's requirement and make sure you provide enough space for the sandcat to roam comfortably. The next thing you can do is use terrain tools to create a sandy landscape with gentle slopes and dunes. And if you do that, just try out some things, see where it takes you, like I'm doing here now. Sandcats in this case don't really require water, but in any case I feel like water still adds to the habitat to make it a little bit more immersive and realistic. So that's kind of like why I do that here. To kind of like surround the null barrier, I'm kind of like using these rocks as you see here to try and like divide them a little bit everywhere and try to combine this modern habitat windows here with these rocks as you saw me find on the reference pictures. So that's kind of like what I'm doing here, and it's very important that you kind of like focus and try to make this like habitat a little bit more like not completely square shaped, but more have a more of a cooler shape so it can look nice and have it mixed together with a lot of different pieces and etc. Here I'm just adding the entrance to the keepers, and then afterwards I'm starting slowly on their shelter, which is going to be something similar to kind of like African and desert kind of vibe. So I'm kind of like trying to make a little hut and shack in that sense, as you can see here. Second tip I would like to share is customization. Customizing buildings in Planet Zoo allows you to unleash your creativity and add a personal touch to your zoo's architecture. One specific key aspect of customization, like Planet Zoo has like so many variety of materials: wood, stone, brick, metal, and more even. And by selecting like some nice appropriate material for your building, you can change the appearance and create a specific ambience for it, which we in this case are doing for the sandcats. We are like making this sort of like African sort of shelter in a way to kind of like make it still feel like it could be fittable in a more realistic zoo, if this is sort of like the theme, the style of the sandcats. Placements is also very unique, like to create this visual composition that fits your design. All these elements can help define the character of your building, whether it's a modern building or if it's a rustic cabin, a fantasy cottage, or a historical structure or landmark. The attention to detail is essential when it comes to this. Small features like doors, as mentioned, or roofs can make such a significantly detail to your build and even add the realism. Adding elements like shutters, awnings, as you can see me, I've added on this build, or decorative trim really enhance like this visual appeal and authenticity of your buildings. It is very, very important, especially trim pieces, and like adding extra things as detail, decals even too, as we have in this game. And as you customize your building, you get more and more confident about it and you add more stuff to it. Don't be afraid to experiment and push the boundaries. I always say that, like, never be too scared. Just use what you feel like looks good, and especially adding the textures, which has such a crucial role in this. The possibilities are endless in this game, and it's literally just whatever you have in mind that you can create and you feel like works for your build. To continue in the building aspect, I want to move over to our next point on the tutorial. I'm calling this detailing. When it comes to designing immersive habitats and buildings in Planet Zoo, paying attention to the small details is just the most important thing and can make a world of difference. The key is to select props that fit the theme, the style, and purpose of the habitat or building you are designing. For example, let's take a safari themed habitat. It might feature wooden benches, rustic signs, and let's say a modern zoo entrance. Could have a sleek, contemporary style, like seating area and maybe some minimalistic signage or something. And it's just very important to keep that in mind when you're building this. And also when it comes to the detailing. Really pay attention to where you position the props within the habitat or building, as I mentioned. Consider the functional purpose of them. Like, if you have to put down a piece, make sure that it actually fits, like it's gonna be usable. Like I've said in many of my other videos before, like if you add anything, just make sure that it actually just makes sense towards the build. Like, just don't place a random thing, because literally these things are a killer when it comes to the immersiveness of building something. Realism is key when you're adding these small details too. As I've mentioned, like, study real life environments. Maybe go on Google Maps, go in and search for some zoos and walk around in them. Check out Pinterest. Check out, there's probably a lot of zoo sites that puts out their blueprints and etc. and drawings of habitats. So as you design your habitats and your buildings in Planet Zoo, just don't overlook the power of small details. Include props that are appropriate for the theme. Pay attention to the scaling of the pieces and the placement. And if you're doing this, you will 100% elevate the immersion and create, hopefully, an unforgettable experience for your visitors. Moving over to another crucial tip I would like to share is habitat environment. So what I'm doing now is that I'm adding these new bushes we got in the update for the desert pack. And what's important here, as I mentioned before, is that it's really important you use some of these like biomes and foliage from their preferred biome and how they live. And I really like how you can do this, and especially using the terrain tool again, mentioning this, to kind of like make this habitat of them, this biome of theirs, a little bit special and different and unique at the same time. So what I'm doing here is that I'm using a little bit of a different texture of the terrain to kind of like mix and match the whole vibe together here. And I really like the turnout of this, and also adding these bushes and stuff to the grass. So it kind of like gives this, it kind of like adds up more and divides the habitat a little bit. What's also very important is that making these interaction points for the animals, as you can see here, I've already placed a few things down, but also making these logs they can walk on and etc. And it really is important to have these sort of interaction points for the animals, and it also gives your guests an incredible experience to go around and look into the habitat to see how these animals roam and behave. And I'm really stoked for this. And as you can see here, adding a little bit more with the brush tool here, and you can literally just keep on going, and it doesn't really have a stop button. Going back into here, also something you have to do when you do a habitat is like the depth of a habitat, and also kind of like making, as I mentioned, these interaction points for animals. So what I'm doing here is that I'm actually making a little cave thing here that actually is attached to the wall to give the animals a little bit of a more of an interaction situation here, and also maybe even an extra shelter where they can hide. So all these things here are very important to put focus on. It enhances the immersion for both the animals and the guest, and it gives this nice, amazing atmosphere when you look into the habitat and you see these animals interact with these enrichments that you've placed around. These points serve as opportunities for animals to engage with their environment, they exhibit natural behaviors, and enhance their overall well-being. Water features also play a vital role in animal interactions. Whether it's a shallow pool or like a flowing stream, a cascading waterfall, water elements not only provide a source of hydration, but it also serve as little enrichments for animals that enjoy swimming or playing in the water. In this case, the sandcats don't really require water since it's a desert animal and it's like, I mean, to swim around in and interact with. But in any case, I still like to put in a little water feature, as you saw me do, to add this little extra immersiveness and just to give the habitat a little bit more of a nature vibe. Climbing structures are also another important aspect of animal interaction points. In this case, for the sandcats, it is very important, as you will see me do inside their little shelter. I do like this little cat tree sort of vibe with like some ramps and something you can go up and they can go underneath and sleep. They just have a little interaction points with some of these pieces I use. A lot of animals need this sort of interaction where they can climb up and they can look around, and some animals doesn't. So it's just very depending on what habitat you're building for the animal. Like if you are having a builder animal, you're obviously more allowed to like build around it and feel like, what can I do to put these climbing structures together. And if you incorporate a variety of animal interaction points in the design of habitats, you will create a dynamic and enriching space that mirrors the animal's natural habitats and behavior. So in this case, as I told you, I'm doing this cat tree and I'm just trying to give the cats so much interaction in their shelter here, so they will have another thing to like go in here and relax and get away from all the people and etc. And it also gives a complete free flow to the keepers to walk straight into the habitat and out of it as well. So I mentioned decals before, and decals were something we got later in the game, and they are an absolute must to have, guys. They add so much texture to your builds, and especially when it comes to zoo where you got all this like lots of dirt. So I can definitely recommend to get that pack if you don't have it already, because decals have a very crucial factor in putting detail onto your builds. And in this case, I want to do it inside of the shelter to add a little bit extra to the walls. Also adding some lighting, which is also a very important role into this, especially if you want to have an immersive and nice experience all the way through the day. So you can always play around with the lighting and see what is best for you and your build. And it's literally just to try out stuff, as I have done here. I added these two lamps here that can kind of hang, and it gives kind of like a nice little feature. Things I'm doing here is also, like I mentioned, like the small extra detailing. So what I'm doing here is that I'm just literally just adding something extra inside the shelter just to give it something that little pops up a bit more. It's a little bit of a hanging rope towards the supports to the pillars, and in some way or another it kind of works nice, and it could also feel like something they maybe even be able to hold on to and climb in, you know. So those are some very crucial things here. And as I mentioned too, it's very important you use pieces that fits the theme, and it also gives it this nice experience for the people around. The next point we are going to talk about here is the pathing and the guest flow, and also like the guest interactions you can do here. So what I'm doing here mainly is that I'm adding, of course, a pathing, and I'm trying to give it as close to the habitat as possible. Afterwards, I'm adding some extra curbs on top of the pathing, so we get away with this sort of desert area here, and I'm just kind of like trying to have the same color to it, so it kind of like has the same sort of vibe and atmosphere all the way around. So it's kind of like still this sandy vibe. It's literally just up to you what you want to do around the whole thing. Mainly just try see if you can use all these guest interactions such as we have in the game, and also add benches, bends, lampposts, even flower beds as you see me do here. And also just try to get a smooth transitioning around your entire habitat and make sure that everyone can walk around. You can use the barriers and the curbs also to even do better path working if you are struggling with it. But just keep in mind to hold control down when you do pathing, because then it won't attach or snap towards the pathing you are trying to connect with, and you all most likely have a free roam yourself. So it is all about not only making sure that your animal are thriving and they're having a nice habitat, but it's also about focusing on your guests, the interaction, as I told you, and also the lookout points. Where would they be able to see the animals, and when they see the animals, what will their view be besides this habitat? What will you do in the background? Like the whole composition at depth when you want to build all these things. All these things matter. Like, you can't just, like, placing a tree is not always easy. Sometimes a tree can also ruin the entire immersiveness and composition. So it's all about placing these elements right and making sure that the sight line of everything just looks spot on. So after you've kind of like tried to add some more guest interactions and some flower beds and try to make some things look more smooth, you can after that slowly try to maybe add a little shop area and also just having these nice open spots where people can go over and see the animals, which is pretty much the last thing I want to tell you guys about, and then we will have a little bit of some blueprint efficiency and some communities. So that is pretty much how I would sort of do these things to build a habitat and also the surroundings. But let us move over to the shop. So my whole intention here about this shop area is to kind of like have it still being very close towards the habitat, so we still have guests interacting with the shop area and the whole habitat section. So in any case, this area will be somewhat filled with a lot of people because you have all these interactions. So it's very important, as I mentioned, to have this guest flow to see if you can have things running smoothly even though you pack things in a tight area together. And what's important about that is that you still have to somewhat focus on getting these sort of areas clean for a nice passage to walk around. So what I'm doing here still is that I'm still adding some flower beds, as you can see. I'm trying to make this area very smooth so we have all these things interact with each other, so there's no really any gaps between here, so everything feels like a fully immersive experience, or walkthrough in that case. And it's very important to focus on this, and also to, again, to add depth. As much as the eye can take, it's very important to keep on doing that. Sometimes you can also add too many things and you don't want to get that, so you still want to keep it on that subtle immersiveness. So I'm doing this here, that in between these flower beds I'm adding this sort of trellis towards the shop, as you've seen me build, where I'm kind of like trying to figure out what would be good here and what can I add to give this area some nice theming and a nice feeling to it. And then after here, I'm just trying to give it some support, and again using the materials and textures that I know you use in an environment and in a habitat like this. So I'm using the thin kind of logs here and color them the colors of this sort of vibe I'm going with. And then afterwards here you can see we're slowly starting to add benches and all that stuff. If you add too many, they won't use them all, so just add 1 or 2 per shop area, and then you're kind of good, because then they will be used. Having too many benches is some weird, like, just box out in both Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo. So going back to the shop here, I just kind of want to cover up the whole default building things you see from the building here or from the shop. So I'm just trying to add these bamboo kind of sticks from the African wall, and then I'm just adding a little bit more detailing. Again guys, it's all about the detailing and what you feel like it needs, and try still to combine it with pieces and colors that you have, so everything looks as it should be and not something completely randomly placed that completely ruin the whole view and vibe you're trying to create here. Next up, I want to share a little bit about the depth and the backdrop of your builds and habitats. So what I'm doing here is a little bit of an extra thing that I feel like is important to remember too. This is the depth I was talking about. So instead of having this background that is just open, I kind of want to try get this closed in so it feels like a more closed and finished area. So what I'm doing here is that I'm giving the backdrop to this entire area here a little bit of the same vibe as you know I told you guys about. A little bit of a different types of colored woods, trying like to get this vibe in so you can see that what is behind here has still something to do with everything. It's just in the background, so it's just there to keep the, like, kind of like just to keep your eyes at peace. And at the same time you can add a few things in the back here too, maybe even some staff facilities or stuff. It's just very important you kind of focus on this, because now you can kind of see you have like this sort of ending to your whole situation here, and and you don't getting bothered by having an open area that you know you have to fix up. So here again, opening this area up, adding more benches, and then we just kind of clutter it up to fill in some gaps. It's very important you do this, and it also just gives a nice cool effect to it that you have a lot of pieces to look for when you're looking around here. So to the thing I mentioned by adding more paths and stuff is that around this flower bed I add a little extra pathing, so to kind of like control the guest a little bit, so they don't just have this little clump of benches and stuff to work around with, so they always can go this little, and you can even use that section for a transition to another area or whatever pleases you from continuing. So adding some lights here, as you can see, this area is really starting to pop up, and you literally just do the same thing on the right side of the habitat, where you maybe can even add a little bit of levels, maybe add some stairs that move up to another habitat for a future purpose. So literally just finishing up the little building here, just to give it a little bit more feeling, a little bit more African vibes to it. And I feel like if you add a little bit more stuff, it can really just add and make the building pop up extra. So I'm adding a little bit of ivy and stuff here, and then at the end I'm adding some decals, and that literally just does the perfect job for this building here. That is literally sometimes all you need, a little bit of decal and ivy, and you are good to go with this building. I didn't want it to go crazy with detailing because I want this to be a tutorial, and I want all of you to kind of like be able to build this without thinking, oh my god, this is so much, it's too overwhelming or something like that. So I'm trying to just keep it on very basic levels for you guys, so you guys can kind of like imagine and see how you use these pieces. And I also have it on a very low speed this time around, so you guys can actually see what is happening. Moving over to our second to last point on this video here. This is the blueprint efficiency. It's very important to create blueprints, because when you do, you have to focus on optimizing them for the efficiency and easy of use. Ensure that the blueprints you are making are functional and easy to place within other zoos and zoo layouts. Consider making them modular, allowing for integration into different habitats or buildings in that way. If you do this way, players can easily incorporate your blueprints into their own creations, parks, zoos, dioramas, you name it. And it's just very important at the same time to build up your workshop. Doing that will make you more involved into the community, which is also the last point we're going to here in a sec that I'm going to explain to you guys. But it also just brighten and enlighten your horizon of different things you can do in this game. So here in the background you are seeing me upload one of my builds I did in this tutorial, and just kind of trying to show you how you upload a blueprint to the workshop. First you save it obviously as a blueprint, then afterwards you go into your blueprint folder and click the upload to Steam Workshop. After that you fill out all the things you need to do and you click upload, and then you are good to go. I started very early in Planet Coaster by uploading a lot of blueprints, and I have done the same thing in Planet Zoo. As you can see here, there are different ways of doing this, and you can upload zoos, habitats, shop skins, stations, whatever you want. You can literally upload everything to the workshop, and it is important you do that. As soon as you do that, you allow other people, the entire community, to use your blueprint in their parks. And it's so cool sometimes to actually get to see something you build in other people's projects. So really important to focus on this blueprint efficiency, as I'm calling it. So just think about what you want to load or what you want to upload to the workshop. I mean, there are still plenty of people that upload the same thing. Like you can find a Golpy shop, like probably hundreds of different ways of building a shop skin for that, and you can find it on the workshop. And you can do the same by building something that you allow others to use, and etc., vice versa. So it's really important, guys, to focus on blueprints. The last thing I have on the agenda today in this video, friends, are the communities. This is about sharing and feedback, as I mentioned in the last point here. Engaging with the Planet Zoo community by sharing your creations and seeking feedback is a must. Join online forums, social media groups, Discord communities. Keep on uploading stuff to the Steam Workshop. Interact with the Steam Workshop. Go in and see what people are building. Download it yourself, comment on them. Try to get by and try to figure out, what does this community like? What do they want? Can I build something similar that will make it boost myself? And can I get better while building? And of course you can. Joining a community makes you be able to share screenshots, even make blueprints available for others to use. Join collaborations. Seek the feedback. Get suggestions from fellow players, better, or someone that just started playing this game and also is seeking feedback and how to start. Where I hope this video obviously will be a good starter for you. But literally joining communities will 100% give you more confidence, 100% make you a better builder. Just interact with all of these communities and I guarantee you that you will be enjoying this game a lot more than playing it alone, because that is what communities are for. We sit here, we provide feedback, we provide good vibes to everyone that likes to build and be creative. And and of course you can join my community, my Discord here. The links are down below, so click it and join us. We are a bunch of good people that play Planco and Planet Zoo. Collaborating with others, as I said too, is also a crucial matter to this. It gives you this opportunity to work with someone that maybe can add some more to your creation, and that will affect you to actually also build like this. So as I'm saying, collaborations, communities, etc., it will make you a better builder, and it will only make you stronger in this community and in the game. So I can 100% suggest that you do this right away. So guys, by following these tips and diving into the details, as I hopefully provided you guys with, you will be able to create these immersive habitats, amazing detail buildings, and most likely some captivating blueprints and habitats in Planet Zoo. Always remember to experiment, practice, never give up, and have fun as you bring your vision to life. Let me know what you guys think of this video. Do you want any more tips and tricks videos of Planet Zoo? Let me know down below. Give me a little comment of what you think, and like the video if you think it deserves it, guys, and if you want more of these. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you around. Bye.